Today we're going to be talking about phonics, and this will aid you with your pronunciation, especially with your upcoming speaking assessment. Now, what I've done is listen to you in class, and also from my knowledge of common mistake with French pronunciation and French phonics, is I've put together a short list of common phrases, common letters, common combination of letters that are easily mispronounced. So throughout the video, it would be a good idea to make some notes on the piece of paper that I gave you during our lesson, and of course make sure you bring that with you next time we see each other in class. As well as making notes throughout the video, it will be well worth pausing it after I pronounce something and giving it a go yourself. This will help you to figure out your own pronunciation and how you can improve it. So let's start with a few basic ones, but often easy ones to make mistakes with. Now, this vocab in the board in front of you, un and une, they both mean a or an in French. They come up all the time in French, just like a comes up all the time in the English language. So it's really important to get these right. Now, the reason we've got two is masculine and feminine. So they come before masculine nouns or feminine nouns, okay? Now, it's super important to get these right because you're using them all the time. The UN, which is masculine, is pronounced un. Un. You're barely pronouncing that N at the end. It's just slightly there, un. And then you've got feminine, which is une. A very different sound. Un, une. Un, une. Very different. Would be worth you pausing the video now and giving that a go for yourself. Un, une. I really want to hear that difference in your speaking assessments. Now again, some of the basics, learning these since year 7, but often they're so easy to pronounce or to mix up. Le, la and les all mean the in French. Now in English, in the English language, we use the all the time. And in French, it's no difference. Le is the masculine way to say the, la is the feminine way, and les is the plural way to say the. So you put them in front of masculine, feminine, or plural nouns. Now, it's important that you don't mix them up and that you pronounce them correctly. So we've got le, le, la, la, and les. We don't pronounce that S on the end. Le, la, les. Give that a practice for yourself. Now, often you've heard me say during lessons, no, don't pronounce that consonant at the end, don't pronounce that letter at the end, but there's a simple rule to help you remember which ones to pronounce and which ones not to pronounce. Now, this isn't a blanket rule, it doesn't apply to every single word, but P, D, T and S, and you've heard this rule before, if they're at the end of a word, you should not pronounce them. So, the way I like to remember it is pandas don't talk, silly. Now you can come up with your own way of remembering it, your own silly little rhyme, but pandas don't talk, silly is the way that I remember it. P-D-T-S. You do not pronounce those letters if they're at the end of a word. So for example, the word trop, which means too, okay, so I am too nice, for example, if you're explaining your personality, je suis trop gentil. You don't pronounce that P at the end. It's not trop, it's trop. It's like that P isn't there, but it needs to be spelt with a P. Another example would be, je m'entends bien. I get on well. Now, you're using this in your speaking assessment to say who you get on well with in your family. Notice the word m'entend. It has a D and an S at the end. We basically do not pronounce those. Je m'entends bien. You can hear that I stop my pronunciation at that end. N. Je m'entends bien. Same if you're talking about different people within that verb. Je m'entends bien. I get on well with. Stop at the end. Tu t'entends bien. Not pronouncing that D or S. D, S. Don't pronounce them if they're at the end of a word. Il s'entend bien. Or he gets on well. This next pronunciation rule is often a common mistake made by lots and lots of students learning French. It's E versus A. Now, both of them, you'll notice, are E's, but one has an accent on it, and the accent is going up, like a plane taking off. So we've got E versus E, essentially, but they are pronounced differently. Now, if I wanted to say I download in the present tense, normally I download, I'd say je télécharge. I'm not pronouncing that E at the end. It's not je téléchargé, it's not je téléchargé, it's je télécharge. But if I wanted to say I downloaded, I would use j'ai téléchargé. Now, forget really about what I'm talking about. I'm focusing on the E at the end here and the E at the end here. I don't pronounce this one because there's no accent. I do pronounce this one because there is an accent. Télécharge, téléchargé. So that E accent is like an A sound. Je télécharge, j'ai téléchargé. Another common pronunciation mistake that I'm hearing quite a lot, especially with you guys, is the third person plural. Now, for those of you who can't quite figure out what the third person plural is, it's when you're saying they. So, for example, they listen or they download. Now, because these are S's on the end of a word, you don't pronounce them. So it's il and elle. It's not ils, it's not elles, it's il and elle. Moving on to the actual thing that we're focusing on, this word here, so they listen, they download, okay, group of boys, group of girls. These ones here, you're pronouncing often with the ENT on the end. So I will often hear il écoutant, écoutant. I'll often hear écoutant or téléchargeant. Now, if you're talking about they, il or elle, you do not pronounce that ENT on the end. It's kind of like it isn't there. So instead of écoutant, it will be écoute. And instead of téléchargeant, it would be télécharge. It's like that ENT is not there. Do not pronounce it. Now, due to the role play that we're doing and due to the describing photo that we're doing, these three bits of vocab come up quite often. So if we wanted to describe our personality and we wanted to describe ourselves as nice, we would say je suis gentille. And talking about the girl in the photo, we would say fille, and the family, famille. Now notice I'm not saying fille, I'm not saying famille, and I'm not saying gentille, okay? That I-double-L-E is more like an E sound, okay? Kind of like you're saying E. So fille rather than fille, famille rather than famille, and gentil rather than gentille. We are not pronouncing those L's outright. So that I-double-L-E is more of an E sound rather than an il. Now again, due to the role play and the describing photo we're doing, a lot of you have written these bits of vocab into your preparation. So heureux, meaning happy, cheveux, meaning hair, and yeux, meaning eyes. All three have a common feature, this E-U-X. That E-U-X is more of an sound, okay, an sound. Rather than an X or X or anything like that, you do not pronounce that X at all. So it would be heureux, cheveux, and yeux. It's more of an sound. The final pronunciation rule that I'd like to talk about today is how to pronounce a Y in French. Now, a Y in French is pronounced like E, so a double E sound. So instead of il y a, or anything like that, it's il y a, and it runs into one together, even though it's three separate words. Il y a. So if you're saying in the photo there is, sur la photo il y a, or dans la photo il y a. That'll be nice and simple, il y a. Now, it also comes across in the word style, okay, in French, that instead of pronouncing it style, which is the very English pronunciation of it, instead it's style, style. Just like the word stylo, which means pen, that we learnt in year 7, this one is style, which means style. Be careful with words that look exactly the same in English and French, not to give them that English pronunciation. Go for it with your French accent, your French pronunciation, style. So that's it for pronunciation, but just before the video ends, I want to point out these three words here, because I'm seeing common mistakes amongst all of your preparation with these three words. These three words, mon, ma, and may, all mean my in English. All three mean my, okay? Now, they've got three different versions. You guessed it, because it's masculine in blue, feminine in red, and plural in black. Mon, ma, and may. Notice that S, I'm not pronouncing it. It's part of our PDTS rule. May. Mon, ma, may. Now, it depends on the word that's coming after it, which one you used before. So, for example, the word père, which is dad, in French, that is a masculine word, so you use the masculine version of my. Mum is mère in French, so we would use the feminine way to say my mère, mon père, ma mère. Whereas, if we were saying parents, and it's plural, we would say mes parents. Notice T and S at the end, I'm not pronouncing them, they're part of our PDTS rule. Mes parents. Okay, so that's pretty much it for today. We haven't tackled all the phonics in French by any stretch of the imagination, but I've just picked out several rules of common mistakes I've been seeing within your pronunciation in class, and common mistakes I see across lots of different students learning French as well. So hopefully this can help you in your speaking assessment coming up, and don't forget to practice for that one as it's coming up next week. Remember to bring your sheet that you've made your notes on into lesson next week as well, as I'll be expecting to see that. Now, a top tip for the upcoming speaking assessment. You know you've prepared a little bit on the role play, a little bit on the describing photo. There are 3 questions that you've prepared on the describing photo, and there are 2 surprise ones. A top tip for the surprise ones, you will need to know your near future tense. Therefore, it is in your best interest to go ahead and maybe go and revise your near future tense by either using your book or, of course, using the near future tense video that I did a few weeks back. Please use these videos to help you revise, as that's what they're there for. Feel free to go back throughout this video to practice some of your pronunciation in the lead up to your speaking assessment. See you next week.